Morning, guys. Just making a little cheesy eggs a la Waffle House. My kids like these. They're into cheesy eggs these days. They wake up and they want cheesy eggs. I mean, what does this look like? A restaurant? I mean, Waffle House cheesy eggs are really good. Let's be real. Hope everyone's having a good morning. Get into the news in a second as we let some folks join us live here. Just to tell you guys kind of where my head's at. Had a long day of work yesterday and came home and I was like, you know what, I'm not taking good care of myself. I need to do a mask. I need to do one of those peels, you know, that kind of like gets your face freshened up. But you know, you put the stuff that stings your skin on first, and then you put something that gets it off. Well, I did I did the first part. And I ended up doing the second part, but I fell asleep. So when I woke up this morning, I didn't put anything else on my skin. My face is like a fire engine red. And I was like, I don't know if I needed to do that. Because when you do those masks, you're supposed to follow them up with like a, something soothing. I just missed that because I just laid down and was game over. I did what I said I was going to do yesterday, which was a little bit of homework for you guys. And I think it ties in nicely to some of the big news items of the day. So let me just set down these eggs and then we'll get to it. Hey guys, cheesy eggs, hot. It's hot. Okay, good. One of them is pretending to be a puppy. We're good to go. We're good to go for at least 5 minutes. Okay, so one of the things that we talked about yesterday was there's a big report delivered to the Senate Intel Committee by the Director of National Intelligence, Dan Coates. It's called the World Threat Assessment Report. And when I saw the headlines come out about this, I thought, I got to look more into this report. It was given on Tuesday, so I had yesterday to read it through. A lot of the headlines, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on, what the media does good or bad, because it's a waste of your time, but I do want to point out something that I think is really important, which is the focus of the reporting on this was that the report contradicted President Trump in areas of North Korea and ISIS. That's true, I guess. But there's a lot of other important things in the report that actually affect your life in a more significant way, one could argue. And here's just an example of that. The report really underscored this relationship that continues to grow between Russia and China and how they're working independently but also together to challenge the United States. The report mentioned that both countries have the capability to use their cyber attacks to take down parts of our critical infrastructure. So an example they used for Russia was the electric grid for at least several hours, if not more. And for China, interestingly, what was mentioned was taking down natural gas pipelines for several hours, days, or months. Think about this, because this is a choice by the news. We are in the midst of one of the coldest periods that we have seen in decades in America. You are seeing below freezing temperatures. And our Director of National Intelligence is telling America that you have two adversaries that can take out parts of our critical infrastructure. Daddy just woke up. Can you imagine if it happened during a freeze like we're seeing? Can you imagine what that would do to the people of Chicago or the people of Missouri or Michigan? What's really the priority? Pointing out the discrepancy between the president and the intel community, or pointing out something like that? I think that's really, really important. Okay, I'm going to sneak in here. Shh, don't tell anyone. Let's put that on. So that was one part of the report that I really thought you should know about. I thought that was really, really crucial. And scary. A couple other parts of the report that I thought were also important. The use of chemical warfare is growing. They were concerned about that. They were concerned about Al-Qaeda. We don't talk a lot about Al-Qaeda, but even during this time where there's a lot of turmoil in places where Al-Qaeda finds itself, like Yemen, they continue to expand and want to threaten the United States. And finally, another thing that was important, there was a mention about transnational gangs, especially out of Central America, a slight mention to border issues, just saying that these gangs are going to grow in power as the countries that they're in lose government structure, and how these gangs should be looked at as potential partners with their adversaries. So just something to consider. Also, tucked into the report was a small portion that I also thought was important about health security, and that a flu or another pandemic could really cripple the United States and the world economy in general. That it could be a real threat. And I want to tie this into something. Two big stories today when you think about the spread of disease. One is in Venezuela, and this was also mentioned in the report. One of the problems with Venezuela not only is the crippling economy, but the fact that there's not medicine. And when there's not medicine, the children aren't vaccinated or anyone's vaccinated. One Venezuelan child crossed the border into the Amazon region. Talking about Brazil, the whole kind of northern part of South America, and there's like 10,000 cases of measles there now because of the spread of disease. Okay, that's what happened. In the United States, there was an international traveler, and we don't know who exactly or where they were from, went to Washington State, and in a specific county where there were very low vaccination levels, there is an outbreak of measles. Washington State currently has declared a state of emergency because of all these cases. And why did it happen? Because the communities are choosing not to vaccinate. And remember, or at least a portion of them, remember, vaccinations only really work not only if you're, just because you're vaccinated doesn't necessarily mean you're protected. You need the community to be vaccinated, because otherwise, if there's vulnerability in the system, the disease can take hold. And that's why the measles vaccine still isn't 100%. And they're finding, too, that as you get older, you have more vulnerability to the measles. Not a huge vulnerability, but, you still have a chance. So that's happening in Washington State. You have a measles outbreak. You have a measles outbreak as well in New York State, in a particular insular Jewish community. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But just because that's also happening in the news and this report is mentioning it, I think it's important to mention to you. So those are a couple of things. The purpose of the World Threat Assessment Report is that it's going to be scary. It's dealing with the threats against the United States, the top threats. And so check out our card on that today, because I just bullet pointed what I saw, which I thought would be the most important to you specifically. And that's what we did. And we'll continue to watch the measles outbreak in Washington State, as well as what's going on in New York. So that's kind of the heavy news of the day. I want to mention just something that's been going on for a couple days in politics, and I'm just sort of curious what you think about it as we kind of start the long road to 2020. You guys have likely seen. I haven't watched any television this week. I hate to admit it. Used to work on television, don't watch it anymore. I don't know what to tell you. A lot of you don't either. So I think I'm in good company. But I'm seeing a lot of it on social media, and I did rewatch an interview from 60 Minutes with Howard Schultz, founder of Starbucks, who says he is not officially announcing his run for president, but he's thinking about it. And he has a book out, and he's talking a lot about it, which basically means this is a tryout. He's going to see how things go, but he's likely going to file for president. We don't know that for sure. Anyhow, he every single day as I'm watching his interviews kind of grow, because he's doing this media blitz. He's getting better at talking about what he really stands for. He grew up in the projects in Brooklyn, and he made his way up from being, I think, a Xerox salesman and also a coffee salesman, to then running Starbucks, which we all know, and creating a company that provides healthcare and pays for college tuition, helps pay for college tuition. He, though, doesn't agree with some of the Democrats' platform on healthcare for all and the way that they're presenting it, for example. And he's speaking out against Democrats and Republicans for the dysfunction in Washington, D.C. Anyhow, I'm just curious what you guys think about him. Democrats are really not happy. They are really not happy. They think if he did run, he would take votes from the Democrats and ensure that President Trump would be reelected. But guys, it is a long road between now and Election Day in 2020. A lot can happen. So we should take a deep breath. I'm just curious, what do you think about Howard Schultz? What do you think about an independent run? And this particular time, in this political environment, do you think an independent run could actually cut through? I'm curious what you think. All right, back to cheesy eggs. By the way, did you guys see? This is a great Travis Mills. We were talking about Afghanistan yesterday. Travis Mills is my buddy. Travis Mills Foundation. You should check it out, travismills.org. If you don't know him, you should know him. You should look him up today, right now. And it will change your life. I'm not kidding. I'm not overselling it. I'm really totally not. You need to know his story. Okay, guys, have a great day. One thing I'm going to do, I'm going to get Leif Babin. Former Navy SEAL Leif Babin. I'm going to use that title. And on Amazon, I'm going to put the flashlights that we have around our household, as well as the headlamps that we should never be without. And as you know, if you watched last week, we had an electric outage in San Diego. I was changing a diaper using a headlamp because my husband actually comes prepared. And I'm going to put a couple things that Leif thinks are good emergency, things that you should have around your house, because I don't know how we prepare for like a full electric outage in many states, if something like that horrible would happen. But I think we can be better prepared. Okay, one other quick thing I just want to mention. Oh my gosh, I completely forgot about the World Threat Assessment Report. Candace, I see you. I meant to send you this report. I'm really sorry. Candace asked for it yesterday. One thing, and I'll leave it here because it's a good place to end. Both China and Russia are using social media to their advantage. China more about pro-China stuff, but Russia in particular is really trying to pull apart the threads of America, cause dissent, racial tension, stress using social media. So if you start getting spun up about something, just remember, if you don't know the exact source, you have no idea who's behind it. I thought that was a really good reminder when I read it, because it's easy to do, and a lot of times with social media, you have no idea where things really came from. So, except for this, which you can trust. Okay, guys, have a great day. Just think about that, and I'll be back a little bit later with those links to Amazon. All right, guys, have a great day. I'll talk to you later.